Continuity Conversations on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by 33.7. Find out more by going to 337.ca. Shaun Haney here with RealAgriculture.com and Real Ag Radio, Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. We're continuing our continuity conversations with Darryn Shrosbree of 33.7. And Darryn, we've had three interesting chats here so far. Now we're going to talk about step 4 in this continuity process. And step 4 is actually a really important one, and one that I know that the stats show is not thought about enough pre someone becoming deceased. And that is, who gets your stuff when you die? Kind of put in a pretty harsh form, but an important one, no doubt.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Shaun, thanks again. It's great to see you. So if you want to recap the pretty abysmal stats of continuity planning, 88% of Canadian farmers don't have a plan. That beggars the question, are you farming for your own family or are you farming for the government? Because without a plan, you're starting to farm for the government, because the loss of acreage and the loss of money is going to be staggering. $600 billion of farmland is going to change hands in the next 10 years. This is, by the way, FCC stats. I didn't make this stuff up. So without a continuity plan, you're in really a bit of a pickle. The low-hanging fruit of continuity planning, if you don't, for whatever reason, decide to do one or have one, the easiest and, like I said, the low-hanging fruit of continuity planning is who gets your stuff when you die, right? So that in normal language is a will. So who has a will? Who has a
Not enough. Will? Not enough.
Well, way lower than 12%, because only 12% of people have a continuity plan, and even fewer than those have a will. So it's quite baffling that people don't have a will. And I think there's two reasons for that. One, it's kind of a macabre topic. You don't really want to talk about your mortality. It's a bit morose. And then secondly, it's the barrier to entry. It's like, where do I start? What do I do? What are the questions I have to ask, et cetera, et cetera. So if it became simple, where you could, for example, just jump on a Zoom and get someone to ask you the 20 relevant questions, you talk, it's recorded, and then it's written down, sent to you, and you sign off, that you get the will quite quickly. So I don't know why it hasn't been done yet, but that's the new way to do it, is to find someone who will do that for you. What the will does, once you do have it written down, is obviously it directs traffic. Because if you don't have it written down, the fights and the family breaking apart becomes quite severe.
Yeah.
Because good fences make good neighbors. Even if your children are all having supper together now, they have spouses, they have different agendas, they want different things. And if it's not written down, well, then it's a free-for-all. So the free-for-all not only wrecks your family, but the government has to step in, and there's a rules-based engine of who gets what. So you might work your entire life in the farm, and the exact person that you don't want the acreage to go to gets the acreage. So it's a very, very simple, quick fix. And you can write it down on toilet paper if you want. Like if you have a voice memo, just leave a voice memo, send it to 10 people. That's a will. If you actually wanted to get a Sharpie and write it on toilet paper and give it to someone, that's still a will. It's all binding to an extent. As you've seen in the past, lots of people are now, there's a lot of wills that are being contested, et cetera, et cetera. Undue influence is the most recent one, where people are like, oh, my dad gave everything to my sister, but there was undue influence, which means that she coerced him into giving her the acreage when I should get the acreage. But dude, you lived in New York for 10 years and you never went to the acreage. Why should you get it? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So taking away those simple conversations is all will-based. And generally speaking, you need a personal will. So for you, you need a secondary will or a corporate will, right? And then you need a power of attorney as well, POA. A power of attorney is kind of important in case the combine doesn't actually kill you. It just incapacitates you to a point where you cannot make decisions. So who's going to make the decisions for the farm? Once again, if that's left open to interpretation, generally speaking, according to Murphy's Law, you're kind of going to get the person you don't want making your decisions, right? And these are avoidable, Shaun. They're so simple. Like it's a 20-minute conversation with me or someone who's competent at getting them done.
Yeah, and not exactly an expensive step. That's like there's not this big financial barrier in front of making it happen. It's just a case of taking the initiative to do it and keep it updated. I think that's another part of it. Like, if things change over time, you acquire, new things and, your business grows or, your personal wealth or situation changes. Maybe you have grandkids now and you didn't have grandkids before. And relying on a will from, say, 15 or 20, 25 years ago, it may not be up to date and it may be just as inaccurate as not even having one.
Oh, 100% agreed. Yes. And to your point about the cost, there are online portals that you can spend $100 and get your will done.
Yeah.
It's not the best, but you can get it done. If you have an enterprise because farming is a bit more complicated, there's tax exempt assets versus taxable assets. There's different businesses, and generally speaking, there's a lot of family members. So it is a little bit more complicated. So the online will situation might not be a good idea. You probably need a family lawyer or someone who knows about continuity planning to get it done. But yes, it takes a basic will, 30 minutes to an hour. You can do it while you're driving your combine, right? All you have to do is talk. You don't even have to take your eyes off the road. So 30 minutes to an hour to get 80% of the will done. And all it is a conversation. So
Yeah.
it's not that difficult anymore. And if you did that, if you went, because I presume you're in your combine once a year when you're either seeding or harvesting or whatever the case may be, right? You could update it every single year, 30 minutes. It's not that hard.
Yeah. And what you're trying to do here is avoid, like, you put it well, where everybody's getting along. But if we don't have clear direction, we run into this situation, and so many families inside agriculture and outside of agriculture go through this. How many times have you heard the phrase, well, I know what mom and dad would have wanted, or, mom wanted this, or, you never really, you really don't understand what dad would have wanted.
Right.
And those are all perceptions. They may have been conversations. It becomes a case of he said, she said, and really, this is the kind of stuff that can start the breakup of a family, which is what we're trying to avoid here.
Correct. Why are we farming? We're farming for the next generation, right? I'm a farmer. I have 3 boys. I'm farming for them. And my will specifically states who's on farm and who's off farm. If that changes, the formulas that I've written in my will change, right? So that everyone still has supper together. Because why farm if your family gets torn apart because of A, money, and B, a lack of communication? And that's all it is. It's you communicating what you want for the next generation.
Yeah.
And don't forget that a lot of farmers are like, well, they don't allow themselves permission to do what they want because they're constantly like, oh, who else, what else, this, that, the next thing. It's like, no, no, no. It's your farm. You farmed it. You own it. What do you want, right? Do you want to control from the grave? That's a legacy control thing. That's heavy. Do you want to be stewarding or pushing mildly from the grave? Or do you want a complete and unbridled show, right? That's
Yeah.
the do nothing part. The do nothing part is if you don't do anything, it's going to end in interpretation, is what you said. And interpretation, there's 10 different people in a room, there's 10 different opinions. That leads to complete and utter breakdown, which is once again 100% avoidable. It's totally avoidable. And it's cheap and it's fast. So
Well, and the other part of this too is, and this may be this may be sort of sound outlandish or crazy, but remember where you put it. Remember where you did it. And I heard of a situation not too long ago where the patriarch of the family had done a will, doesn't remember what lawyer he went to because he's having some memory issues, and doesn't know where he put it.
yeah.
And now there's some health challenges in the family, and it's created a little bit of a problem. And so that sounds kind of like elementary in terms of remember where you did it and where you put it, but it's not a bad idea to make sure maybe more than one person knows.
Tell you the basics is often overlooked, and I think that's a great point. When we do wills for our folks, we do 6 copies. So 6 copies sealed in a manila envelope with a tag on the outside saying exactly what it is, and we give it to 6 different people.
Yeah.
So we give it to the primary and the secondary lawyer, the primary accountant, secondary if you have, a farm coach. Most farmers have coaches, right? Whether it's a business coach, life coach, et cetera, et cetera. And then we used to, this is a long time ago, safety deposit boxes, but you don't really do those anymore. But yes, any of your professional services team, if you have an investment advisor, give it to them, like physical copies so that they can keep it at their office. Every professional services advisor should have a big filing cabinet with paper. Generally speaking, they do. And they have a file that has your name on it. They slide it into that file. So when you do eventually die, everyone who has money attached to you will have a copy of that, right? Then it can't be disputed, and it's well rounded, right? So if you have a continuity planner like myself or whomever else, or like, let's say, Elaine Fraze, that's a great one to give it to, or myself or whomever it is. Yeah. So yes, where and who is very important. Yeah.
Who should be the power of attorney? I think a lot of people know kind of well, maybe let's start there. What does that person do?
So that person will make decisions for the farm or the business, and which relates to the family in the event that you're incapacitated, cannot make decisions, but are not dead. You're in that kind of limbo state. Generally speaking, you want to, first and foremost, the power of attorney has to be someone you trust, because they're going to be making decisions on your behalf. So you need to know them well, and you need to trust them. Another thing is be careful of conflict of interest. The conflict of interest is if your power of attorney has material interest in the enterprise, they can steer it to what they want, right? Because the third parties don't know what conversation you and the power of attorney have had. You can't speak anymore. You're down. But the power of attorney can then move assets and do things on the farm or the business that might not be to your wishes. So generally speaking, it's someone you trust and someone who's not materially involved in the enterprise and the value of the enterprise. Once again, professional services are good. You can do your brother or your sister if they're not part of the farm, if they live in, whatever, and they're not really part of it, and you trust them and you have a good relationship. That's good. Aunt, uncle, et cetera, something like that.
If you're farming with your brother or your sister, that's not a good idea.
Well, it's done. It's definitely done. If the alignment is extremely tight and everyone is, rowing in the same direction, then yes, the on-farm brother could be a good idea. You just have to be cautious of the two things, which is one, are you steering in the right direction? Is there any conflict of interest there? That's the conflict of interest is the big one. And two is obviously trust. But if you're farming with your brother and you love him to bits, you trust him. So that takes care of that one. Just watch out for the conflict of interest.
Great stuff. Hey, Darryn, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Great to chat.